gonna get here till after lunch.
That would have been nice. Okay, so that's there. Okay. Share. Copy. Paste. Update. Oh. Okay, that's muted. That's muted.
Is anyone on?
I haven't let them in the waiting room yet. I'm trying to wait for staff, but no staff has come on yet.
None?
Uh-uh.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
Is everybody here that we need to have here?
I believe we've got everybody from the developer side. Wait a minute, I say that. I see Chris.
Is Victor joining, Chris?
Yeah, I'm just looking for him now to see if I can. I'll ring him real quick.
I apologize. We are now having a torrential downpour downtown. So
Oh my, yeah, that is really something going on out there.
Well, hopefully that's a sign that spring is here.
So we'll take whatever we can get.
Right on. Let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Are we ready with minutes and all that? Ready to start the minutes?
Yep, we are now recording. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. So the Zoom call certainly makes it easy to see and track attendance. This is the Plan Commission hearing for docket PZ 2020-00075 DP ADLS, the corner redevelopment. This is a public hearing today, and we'll operate as close to the Plan Commission rules of procedure as we possibly can. The petitioner gets to kick things off with their presentation, and then we'll go to staff report. But Mark, are you leading the show today, or?
Yes, sir.
You certainly don't have to go into a great amount of detail, but if there's some kind of general remarks that you'd like to present.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for everybody that took time to join in this morning. We're here to present for the ADLS approval of the corner redevelopment, which is kind of got a soft spot in the Kite family. It was a 42,000 square foot center located at the southwest corner of 116th and Rangeline Road. It is a legacy center for the Kite family. Was originally developed back in the late 70s and had a couple of phases that pushed it into the 90s. This, as well as the center adjacent to the north, the now Rangeline Crossing, which was previously known as the Center, which was redeveloped in 2013. As you guys have all seen, and everybody has probably noticed over the years, we've demolished the center did it in 2 phases in 2017, 2018. So we've got kind of a blank slate. This has been a project that we've been talking about for a long time with the city. But because of some existing leases that were in place, it kind of delayed us getting to the point where we are today, which we're very happy to be where we are today. So what I'd like to do is just real quickly kind of introduce some of the team members that would be available for questions or comments, to answer any comments that anyone may have as whenever the time is appropriate. Who I've got on the line here with me is I've got Ryan Gallmeyer and Zach Henley from the Buckingham Group, which Buckingham and Kite have formed a 50-50 joint venture for the project. We've got Victor Buchholz and Chris Haley from LRK, who are the project architect, available to answer any questions, as well as have Nathan Winslow from Structure Point if there's any civil questions or site related questions. But before we start, I wanted to thank also the staff from the city as well as the CRC members to help us get to this point. This is a little bit of a new process for us going through this, and they've been very helpful in guiding us and meeting with us and giving us really good feedback on everything that we've done up until this point. So with that in mind, I guess I'll turn it over to Victor for you to kind of start to walk us through with Rachel's help of kind of a reduced presentation from the original ADLS submittal package. So I will step aside and let you guys take over at this point.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mark. And Rachel, I'll just go ahead and do a quick. I'll do a walkthrough. Does that make sense? And we'll give an overview for everybody as we discussed. Thanks, Mark, for the intro. We're really excited to show you guys, show everyone what we've got here. We think it's a really handsome project, and it's going to be a fantastic addition to all the placemaking that Carmel's been doing through the years. Like I say, you can see here this first slide is of course just is the front view. We're seeing the corner where the roundabout is in the very far left there. And we'll flip to the site plan to give you just an overview of walking through the site plan. But that's what's on our chamfered hard corner, which makes for a real handsome signature piece right there at that moment. So I'm a drawing guy, so I'll doodle here on the screen to help point to some things as we walk through. So you can see here's a traffic circle. Just orient. North is up. We've got the trail on the left here, and so just big picture orientation. We have what we're calling Building A here on the hard corner. We're calling this Building B on the backside. So 2 main buildings, and then the garage is the center, the hole in the donut, so to speak. A is activated by ground floor retail, shops and restaurants, shelf space. And then you can see we've got both a pedestrian passage and a vehicular passage through the building from the street to back into the heart of the block. But the front side we've tried to really treat again as a sort of a Main Street look with a variety of facades and elevations that feel like they've evolved over time. There's a historical, traditional, if you will, aesthetic to the buildings. And so that's what we're seeing really throughout the project, but primarily how it's broken up on the street side of the building. You can see we've paid particular attention to the pedestrian realm, so that's just, again, a good quality pedestrian experience as you're walking around, the streets there. And then the dotted dash lines indicate direct pedestrian connectivity through sidewalks. And so that's what that's indicating. So you've got that then comes from the street and then through into the block, and then gives access into the garage this way via sidewalks. Of course, there's also multiple other ways to make your way through. And then I would say part of the connection too with the trail, understanding how important that is. The trail system has again, walkways that come through and then connects into the block that also can connect into the garage. So visitors to the site, whether they're coming for, to visit a restaurant or a shop, from the public side, they can come into the garage, Sears Park on this sort of ring access road, or then go right into the garage and then have access right out to the trail, or then out to the street side where they'll have access to the front of the shops. And then there is actually a secondary access to a lot of the shops to the back side here too, for just convenience and for deliveries and whatnot. You're seeing a little bit of color coding. And what we've got here is, again, the color codes indicate how we're always dealing with trash and service. So we've got this darker green is the residential trash. So the residential trash is contained within the buildings, within trash chutes that come down to trash rooms, and then they can be picked up directly from there underneath the buildings. The lighter green are designated retail trash rooms, where so the retail tenants would bring their trash centrally collected there, and those are in enclosed rooms, and then that gets picked up by the trash service as well. The lighter blue elements, which are here, and here, are bike, and also here and here. So we've got them dispersed around the site, are public bike parking. So those are available to public, and then the darker blue is a private secure parking for residents, sort of bike room for residents that live either above the shops here or in Building B against the park. That's sort of an overview of the site plan and how just sort of some of that DNA is working. If you want to go to the next page, we can see. So now we've got a deeper kind of zoom in on the garage, the hole in the donut. And you can see it shows a little more detail of how that functions. So again, vehicular entry here on the garage, vehicular entry on the garage, and then pedestrian entries at the corners. That corner primarily, and then also here, but lots of ways to get in that garage. Circulation then goes up the garage, and then at the corners, these are the trash rooms we mentioned, the retail trash room here and here, 2 different trash rooms, and then an open area at the corner for public parking inside the garage as well, and then the private secure parking for the full-time residents in the buildings. The next slide, we've got our overall elevations. You can see, so again, starting kind of in the upper right, this is our traffic circle, Chamford Corner, which we think makes a really handsome, strong presence right on the traffic circle. And so what we did, again, as we tried to approach it, we didn't want the building to be a monolithic building. We wanted to break down and feel, evolve like it was, again, in the Main Street sort of style. And so with this corner, it has a strong signature element with a center gable element, and then flanking turrets. That the turrets occur right at the junction points for the building. And then where it comes straight line here, you can see going down, we've broken that up into a series of buildings and their own unique expression and color pattern and everything as well. And then we have the little bridge elements, as I mentioned before, where vehicular drive goes underneath. And so those are kind of actually pretty wonderful elements that create some intimacy going into the project and give a kind of signature experience going back towards the garage. And then you can see here, and then this corner element, again, is a very handsome element, but been broken down. And then that corner element fully turns the corner, so it's full 3-dimensional building expression. And then again, going the other way, similar breakdown, you see the drive going through. We try to create a collection of materials that are give some variety and a sense of evolution to the street. And the storefronts you can see along the street here are generally 12 feet tall, so really nice, tall, handsome storefronts, plenty of room for a good kind of Main Street signage, and they get a little taller here on this area, but that's just primarily due to the grade dropping away. And if you want to go to the next page, I think that goes to, so then you're seeing the front elevations facing the trail and then facing the creek to the south. So you're seeing here, again, we've really wanted that building to be a very handsome residential address. And so we've got a very traditional building with an articulated base, sort of body, cornice element, very nice projected cornices, and then bay windows that are articulated there so that we get some, sense of that, sort of the main body of the building, but it's very traditionally organized facade. And then we've broken up a little more subtly than the front building, but we think that that is appropriate and becomes a really elegant facade as you're coming along the creek. So you got some great little balconies and whatnot that look out on the both on the creek and then on the trail system as well. And I think that's probably our last architectural slide.
Yeah.
There we go. So I'm not sure if we want to take some questions or anything like that. But that sort of concludes the architectural part of the presentation.
So does there want to be a, I guess, kind of an update on the landscape package, lighting, and signage too? Is there a part of the presentation that addresses those?
Do you want to pull the, I mean, those are part of our ADLS. We did not include that as part of the presentation, but is that something that we can get to? Oh, looks like.
I've got your packet, so that you submitted. So if there's a page offhand that I can get to, I'll go to it.
What's the best page, Ryan?
Trying to look there as they,
These have some of the renderings in it.
probably closer to the beginning. I would say that we had a productive discussion earlier this week, and we are, based on some preliminary comments we had received, that relative to the landscape plan we are addressing currently, we anticipate being able to make those revisions very quickly. And I think we were able to accommodate or discuss all those comments and arrive at satisfactory revisions that we'll implement. So if there's a specific concern or question, I think we'd be happy to address how we were going to make revisions to the plans and resubmit. I think based on the signage, relative to the signage plan, we had indicated generally where we intended to have blade signage, potentially some tenant signage, but that we wanted to potentially hold the final design of those signs until we had an opportunity to do the full marketing and branding for the site, at which time we would bring forth all the final details of those signs. But generally, we were indicating the location and sizes.
I think the landscape sheet that's probably the best is L120.
Yeah, and Rachel, I believe that's on page 21 of this packet.
There it is.
Or maybe 20.
This is Alyssa Prezo. I'm with Context. I'm the landscape architect. And this was the original submittal. And some of the comments that we received were about providing a native seed habitat between building B on the west side up to the trail. And we have coordinated with Mike and the Parks Department on what that seed mix is. So that is now reflected in the plans that you'll be receiving for the resubmittal. We've also we're working on the south edge, and we will be reforesting the portions that we're able to, per Darren Mindham's direction, with 1-inch caliper trees of native trees that do well in wet areas. So we're able to put some of that reforestation back on that south side as well. We're also been working with the architect and with Buckingham and Kite to develop elevations for the site walls that are around the pool and up around the dining terrace at the intersection. And that's going to strongly reflect the architecture that you saw earlier in terms of materiality and some of the patterns that are present in the architecture.
Melissa, which walls were you talking? You said that you're finalizing the retaining wall or wall design.
Yeah, so Mike, there's because of the grade change along 116th Street, I'm going to draw on here. There's a wall along here that's very simple. It's mostly just to get the building to sit into that hillside. There's a more significant wall as you come along here. And then this is the main wall at that plaza. So in the curved area, that does come up so that folks sitting in that outdoor plaza area are a little more screened from all of the traffic on the intersection. But the rest of them then sit lower and then just accommodate for the grade change mostly. And then we do have some wall here on the pool edge, and that will serve both as the pool security as well as retaining the soil along that southern edge.
Okay, and then how about the site lighting package? What's that?
And Zach, could you potentially describe that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, this is what's being shown on the screen is what we submitted for ADLS. This has been tweaked and improved upon recently, but the areas we're looking to highlight is really around each of our retail entrances and further emphasizing the chamfer on the corner. We have updated since this drawing with some larger sconces on both the chamfer and the break that flanks it on each side. The retaining wall in the middle of the chamfer that Alyssa had referred to will be lit with an even wall wash, and we anticipate putting some branding and sense of place down there to help set the mood for both the retail seating as well as that chamfer, kind of give it a nice glow and a prominent look on this roundabout. We have included additional of the caramel standard lights along the path and the sidewalk on 116th range line. If you move over to the northwest corner of the site where we have kind of our social hub and the outdoor retail seating, we have a mix of catenary lighting over there, wall packs, and bollards that give it a nice mood and sense of place as you exit off the interurban trail onto our site to visit the retail, the restaurants, to park your bike, as well as getting onto the interurban trail to make it feel a very pedestrian-friendly site. And then the remainder of the lighting on here is really looking to achieve as close as we can to a 1-foot candle average. If you notice on this plan, it is a little overlit at the moment, and that's where we went back with some of our revisions to get more of a even keel. Again, I use the word setting the mood, so it doesn't feel over bright, but it is very inviting and friendly as you move throughout the site, and really just making sure all of our pathways are lit in accordance with that roughly 1-foot candle light level.
Why did you say 1-foot candle?
That's the average that we try to go after,
Okay.
and that is not accommodating for any really additional light pollution. So in this drawing, as it's showing now, we're going to have lights in the garage. They're going to give off ambient light that goes in all directions. This is an open air garage. It's not being accounted for. So we are shooting for a 1 foot candle as we're currently shown here, but we know that's probably going to be a little bit higher with the additional light pollution that's around the site. That's our way of not trying to overlight the site, and we don't want to make it feel like a hospital walking around there, that it's overly bright and it kills the mood and the setting that we're trying to create here in the sense of place.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Is there anything else for the presentation side?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Rachel, I've read the staff report, and so I don't think we necessarily need a recap, but there are a handful of outstanding issues that you've itemized. Can you speak to those, please, for the record?
Yes, absolutely. Rachel Kiesling with Planning and Zoning. There were a few remaining concerns in the department report. A couple of those have been identified and discussed today. We have a plan for the bike parking within the garage. We'll probably want more detailed plans on that as far as how many spaces exactly will be provided within those areas. But having it identified is the first step and addresses that concern of just not knowing what the plan was. And then the garbage areas, that was another concern of where those would be located, and that has been explained and identified now within the residential buildings for the residents, and then within the garage for the retail areas. So that's good. Clarification on where the HVAC equipment will be placed. I assume it's on the rooftop. I don't know if anybody can confirm that quickly. That was one plan.
Yes, we can confirm. Yes, that will all be placed on the roof.
Right, that'll be on the rooftop and placed in the center to where you won't be able to see it from a pedestrian standpoint.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And then the last one was the concern over ADA compliance with the southwest connection to the interurban trail, if we wanted to touch on that briefly.
Okay,
On the
thank you.
southwest corner of Building B, our intent was that and I think there was a concern about having an additional ADA ramp near the southwest corner. So for ADA compliance, residents or folks using Building B can exit out of the northern portion or northern leg of Building B and utilize the ramp system identified on this drawing. So we were able to eliminate, I guess, the ADA ramp that was previously shown near the southwest corner.
So is that, I know that the Parks Department's had some concerns just about, protecting their right of way. Is that a fire safety issue that we still need to work through? Is eliminating that in the best interest of the project?
I think what it allowed for, I think the concern was the ramp would have been on the Parks Department land. And when we evaluated placing it closer to our site, it would have eliminated some of the landscaping shown on the landscape drawing. And I think the compromise is that for emergency egress for ADA would be out of the eastern, you could see it that near I guess it would be the connection between the southwest corner of the garage and Building B. You could see that's an ADA egress point. So we achieved the required egress in a different route. And we're able to maintain additional landscaping near that southwest corner of Building B, on the inside corner.
All right, because I'm actually a big fan of this project activating the Monon as much as it possibly can, and I don't want to miss an opportunity. You know, and if it's simply a negotiation with the Parks Department, you know, on how that that point of friction occurs. You know, I'm happy to involve myself to as part of the third spoke or whatever, to complicate things for everybody. But one of the strengths of the project is that trail, the underutilized spur to the, and I think this project is going to do a lot to enhance that. And if that's an important part of it, I'd like to see that happen too.
Understood. And I think we could have further discussions then with that in mind with the Parks Department.
So as part of the recommendation in the staff report, there's a number of approval letters that still need to be obtained. And I didn't see a sign off from the CRC, the Architectural Committee, or anything like that. Do we have a sign off from CRC? And I don't know if, I think I saw Henry.
I can speak to that. The CRC has provided sign off on architecture of building A and B. The CRC has so far withheld sign off on the garage and the art. And there are a couple conditions in our approvals, but I think they pretty much are in concert with what Rachel has as well. So we've approved everything but the garage and the art and some conditional things inside our approval letters. I will add to the parks question. I think that we're all on board with working the parks connection on the north side of the project, that ADA connection on the south side of the project. Since that is not going to be public access, the CRC is, and one of the things that Parks said is they don't want it on their land if it's not public access. So it's just no longer a connection, and that works for the CRC. If it's not taking people from the garage publicly through that southern connection, I'm okay that there's not a southern connection.
Okay. Henry, related to the garage, I mean, there weren't elevations in the packet. I did see some kind of little bits and pieces in the correspondence file, but it looked like it maybe was related to the public parking, the signage that goes along with that. Is there an expectation that this will have similar, public parking blue type P and all that?
Yes. Yes. We want to make sure, and I'm not sure I've had a chance to communicate this to Keystone yet. I'm sorry, to Buckingham and Kite yet, but I'll work with Nathan. We'll work with Nathan to get you guys. It's similar to what we use in Midtown, which is these big blue public parking, a big P. But what I also wanted that is a thing that actually says public parking under it as well. There's a model of that we have and a size of that we have. So I'd like those to be next to the two paseos that lead people into the public parking. And I'm not sure we've had that conversation, but as we do signage, we'll get through that.
Yeah, I think we just, we didn't use obviously your prototypical form, but we did highlight in here that, public parking, but we can put your logo, whatever you guys are talking about there for sure.
Cool.
I uploaded the exact dimensions used in Midtown And I can also upload a rendering of the bar that Henry's talking about onto Project Docs, as well as email it out.
Perfect.
Nathan, what I mean is it's the blade sign that has the P and public parking right under it, not some other, it's all one sign.
Okay, I uploaded that exactly. So, and I'll also email that too.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Henry. Rachel, did you want to just touch on the outstanding approval letters, and can you update me on where things are with each of those, please?
Yes, so we do need final approval from the fire department, the engineering department, the urban forester, and then the last three are the Parks Board, the Parks Building Corporation, and the Township Board. And those last three are in relation to the northwest corner tenant utilizing Parks land for the patio. You can see that right here. And so it requires those three entities giving approval. So we are still waiting on those. But we're hopeful that they will give that approval.
We have a meeting scheduled next week with Parks Board people, Parks Director, Redevelopment Commission, Township representatives, and Building Corporation representatives to discuss this. So the CRC's request would be with respect to that issue, a conditional approval, letting the CRC figure this out.
That makes sense.
Also, sorry, Mike, I didn't get a chance to just say that I appreciate how much work the developer has done here. And we've seen how much they've put into architecture and enhanced it even while we've been working on this for the last few months. So I'm very complimentary of what the developer has done here.
Yeah. I'll second that. I mean, this project has really come a long way. I was worried that it wasn't even going to happen for a while there, just because I know that there were issues. And
You're not the only one, Mike.
Yeah. So I appreciate the work on everybody's part to figure out how to really bring in what looks like a really stunning project for that corner.
And from Buckingham's standpoint, we do appreciate the detailed review, and we would also agree that based on the comments we received from the city and CRC, that the project has come quite a long ways and is much more handsome than it was previously.
Yeah, we're definitely proud of it.
Well, I just had a few questions. And I don't know if we can pull the site plan up, but there's a lot of moving parts, and I recognize that. And the effort that the city will be doing with the roundabout and the public infrastructure, but the issue of the sidewalk and sidewalk width. I mean, I really feel like what we're hoping will be a walkable, pedestrian friendly project. And I'm wondering, where the driveways both interface with 116th Street and Range Line. Is there a way to engineer that so that it reads more sidewalk than driveway, and that
Are you referring to a change in materials or or some other, like a stamped concrete versus just plain concrete in the?
So that it reads more sidewalk than driveway, that the pedestrian environment gets elevated, and the vehicle, it doesn't necessarily have to be a uniform plane, but that it reads sidewalk. And I know that if there's ramps, there's safety issues with that, but if the engineering side of it can look at it as the pedestrian environment includes that area where the driveway comes out, and that it's engineered so that it at least balances the playing field, so that those that are on a bike or walking don't take second fiddle to the car. And I don't really intend to solve that today, but that's a question and an issue that I'd like to work out as the project kind of continues to fruition.
Is there by chance an example that you think has been done well in the city that we could refer to?
Absolutely not. So there's no good example of that.
Okay.
But I'll send you some pictures of what I have in mind, and if we can figure it out, that'd be great.
Will do.
The patio, the canopies with the buildings. I know that there was some signage on those canopies, but I wanted to, I guess, find out a little bit more about the functionality of the canopies. And my thought is on that, while you're pulling that up, is that, I think we've all had an appreciation for, outdoor space and outdoor dining, and that seems to grow each year in every project. We kind of miss the mark sometimes on that balance between sidewalk width and the need for seating. But, if COVID has taught us anything, it's, an appreciation for pushing the envelope on the seasons. And if there's a way that those canopies can be functional and work well with the outdoor space, I think that's a good investment. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. But if you could comment on the canopy locations and.
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump into that. And Mark, I know you have a thought. You probably have some thoughts there. This is Victor with LRK Architects.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So what we tried to do on the canopies is to make sure that they were responding, architecturally in the right spots as well. And we had some good discussions with Rachel and the team on the height of those as well. So we like it. So right now the height is right at about kind of 12 feet, which we like that height because it gives you a sense of, scale, to your point, where you can imagine, in the discussions have been, we might imagine, some really great blade signs that are a part of those addressing for those tenants that are underneath those canopies without them being too low, because the worst thing to do, if it's too low, you feel kind of claustrophobic, but this becomes part of creating that really great public intimate realm. So we think there's a magic to that height that's working pretty well. And so the canopies, like I say, we've got them kind of at the knuckles of the turn here, which we think architecturally is good. And then of course, right on the center. And we've also got them at a depth to, Chris, make sure I'm not lying. Tell us the depth of those canopies right now.
They are 8 feet deep.
So they're 8 feet deep. A lot of times you might see a building and there's just these little 3 foot deep canopies.
Yeah.
But with that 8 foot deep canopy, to your point, you can have some cafe tables under there and things like that, where you're really getting some shade protection. So that's we're being super intentional about that. But I'll be quiet. I know there's somebody else wants to jump in on the thoughts about that, but we've tried to be really intentional about those. And then, in some cases we have areas that don't have canopies, but again, because we're trying to give it that movement visually and from a pedestrian experience where it doesn't feel like you're just walking under this thing and you can't get a look up moment.
How about on the trail side or on the 116th Street frontage in the northwest corner? Do we have?
Yeah, I was going to pop in there, Mike. That's kind of we feel like that's our opportunity, and it's shown here I think on this plan, and maybe it's better to see it in the rendering where it's not necessarily a covered, and I think that's evolving. I think what we were doing in this original design was really kind of trying to, and I guess that's not really what we're intending to do either. Shows you how these things have they evolved as you go through that we are showing it is a it isn't not an enclosed space. It doesn't have a roof on it, but it is enclosed from that. There's an opportunity. Yeah, exactly. And that some of that is, I think there's two things going there. Number one, I think since we are, and as we've talked about, we're in our discussions with the Parks Department to try to understand kind of just what they will allow us to do over there. We wanted to start off with maybe as light as we possibly could. But I think the other thing that we envision out there is that to us is going to be, the tenant's going to drive a lot of that. And we see of the two kind of, I guess, key retail leasing spots in the center, this one being one and then the Chamfer being the other. This one to us, we feel like this is the one that has the greatest opportunity to have for that lively, I keep, and I say it, and I say it, and I say it. It's like a Bubs. We feel like this is more of that type. I feel like the Chamfer is we're targeting from a leasing standpoint, not to say that this ultimately ends up and happens, but we believe just on the location and the just how in your face the space is, that it's going to be closer to like a white tablecloth, where that kind of that outdoor dining is not, it's not as important to them as this space is. This is a very important space to us. So we get the comment. And I think that this space could evolve as we continue working with the Parks Department and our leasing. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I answered your question. I always find when I'm answering questions, sometimes I'm like, God, what the hell are you even talking about? But I think the answer is that's to be determined.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, so the wide sidewalk that kind of transitions off, that's the path, or that's the trail?
I think the trail is off. Is that the trail, or is the trail further off to the right here?
Further off to the right.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was further off to the right.
More off to the right, yeah.
Okay.
My crude. I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know if this sweetens the deal with the Parks Department, but if that's all, kind of designed as a trailhead, that in a plaza where, the 116th Street, multi-purpose path and that path, and it all kind of comes together. And
I know we've got a little bit of elevation there, Ryan. Nathan,
that's correct. That's why you can see where that number 17 call out is. There's a set of stairs there, as well as that ADA ramp.
Yeah.
So there's technically, I believe there's a little bit of a knee wall around that, around that patio. Is that correct?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay.
Well, I thought there was.
There's about 4 feet of grade change, and there's enough distance to just slope it with the native seating.
Oh, and that's part of what Michael wanted to see in there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, enough of that one. Mark, can you tell me a little bit about how the FedEx and Amazon deliveries occur?
Sure. What we've done is in this first site plan, I think based off some comments we got, we originally had shown in our ADLS submittal a 30-foot drive aisle back here. And then based off comments we received, we kind of shrunk that down a little bit, made the sidewalk a little bit wider, but we also kind of designated, and this would be a striped area that's a loading zone. And it would be loading for the retail tenants as well as for the overnight delivery service and that type of stuff, a spot where they can get out of the throughway and be able to go make deliveries, etc.
So is that in the garage or
That is outside of the garage.
okay, on
Yes.
116th Street or on Westfield?
It's on Westfield. That's on the
Okay.
Westfield side, the east side of the garage.
Okay. And then how is that area also get used then for like restaurant deliveries and?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't have this site plan.
Yeah, this is one we just kind of created yesterday in anticipation for this hearing.
Okay.
We can provide this to you, Mike.
Well, the staff report mentioned bike parking and locations. And so, Rachel, does this address, or I mean, are we good with the bike parking, I guess, as it's presented here?
I think we would like more details on how many spaces will be able to be placed in these areas. But generally, we can now see the locations where previously we did not know where they were. So, yes.
I mean, that large block of blue public, is that the best location for that? Is there a reason why it got kind of stuck down in the corner and not in a place where that it plays better with the public itself?
I think we can find additional opportunities, Mike, to perhaps near that northwest corner of the garage. We can find some other opportunities and just submit those to you.
Just by way of scale, the two kind of blue areas that we show up in the more the northwest side of the site, that is, I think that's 25 bike racks, I believe.
Can I ask a question on this? Just because I'm also reacting to that for the first time. What's the difference, are you thinking, between the residential and the public bike parking? Like, are you locking it up? Are you providing, if we go to our bike room in Midtown, there's a vending machine there with bike supplies. There's other stuff. You have a chance to pump up your bike. Are you providing something for the residents that is exclusive? Like, why wouldn't you have just covered public parking for bikes in one area that serves everyone?
Do you guys want to answer that, Ryan, Zach? Because I know that we went through this and it's maybe a little harder to see on this scale.
Sure. Zach, maybe you could describe at the northwest corner, available to both public and to our residents, are kind of the bike station, as you're describing, with tools and pump and things along that line.
The one outside?
Correct.
Okay.
We also have an outdoor kind of communal area that's open to the public that has a couple benches. So that it's really creating a location where there's a mix of both public and private space. It seemed to be the most logical, quite honestly, with the adjacency to the trail. And so anyone passing by would know where it was, could utilize it, whether they're a resident or someone just on the trail taking a trip up to the restaurant.
Can you describe kind of what's, and just to make sure everybody heard that, what's in this area?
So we have a couple, it's meant to be kind of an outdoor workstation area. We've got some, it's probably not showing up quite as well here, but outdoor seating opportunities with workbenches, places to plug in your laptop, open air, and then along the sides of the enclosure that are highlighted in blue are the bike racks. We'll also have the bike tools that Henry was kind of alluding to, whether it's a pump and equipment to work on your bike.
Okay, so then inside the garage, why are you delineating between public and residential bike parking?
I think the idea is that this is more of a long-term storage for the residents, over the winter, or maybe some of the months when the bicycles aren't needed as much. This gives them an opportunity to lock them away and it's a secured access. It would be a fob to access. Just giving maybe a little bit more assurance, not that we anticipate issues, but that's their location, the resident's location to keep and it's in an enclosed room, if you will. Whereas we're anticipating perhaps at that southeast corner that would not necessarily be an enclosed room.
I don't want to take too much more time on this. I'd ask for a conditional approval subject to a lot more work on the bike parking, because we're almost providing two different services here. There's a requirement for bike parking when you're building a garage and serving this many residents. We need that to be public because the garage is public. There's separately, you're interacting with the trailhead. So it makes sense to provide bike parking for those people. It's almost two different concepts. And so, but I don't want to take up too much time. Just in the CRC's mind, this is an outstanding issue.
I appreciate that. And I guess that, and I don't want to either, that light blue, the location of that light blue square looks, it looks like we're trying to make sure we have enough parking to meet the ordinance and not necessarily, making public parking, bicycle parking, kind of a priority. And that's it, as part of the continued effort on that. If that's something that can be looked at, and whether it's just dispersed to other parts of the site or incorporated with the permanent parking, the bike room type thing or whatever. But we don't have to beat that to death here, but that's something that we'll need to have worked out further.
Understood.
I think we can give you some other options there.
The engineering department sign off that we're missing. Is there anybody on engineering today from engineering? Rachel, can you just touch on that real quick, just so I know what needs to get worked out still?
On the engineering side, they need to continue to work through comments with the engineering department. I believe the agreement was that they would not have more runoff than what was previously on the site. Is that correct, Mark? I think.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so that was the agreement with the engineering department, and so they're working through finalizing that.
Okay.
On how that happens.
Is it fair to say, Rachel, that they've also, engineers been involved kind of every step of the way? So they're not outstanding major issues. These are kind of final things, but we've been doing this for months. So if there was major issues, we would all know. And
yeah, we've got Nathan on as well from Structure Point, if he wants to add in on anything.
Yeah, so Nathan Winslow with American Structure Point. I can jump in and speak to that a little bit. Most of the comments at this point that are outstanding from engineering are primarily related to providing some supplemental documentation. It's not necessarily anything that results in a design change so much as providing that supporting documentation. So we are actively working on that, and we'll be providing that with our resubmittal.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess one last piece to elaborate, that bridge culvert has an impact on the floodplains. So that's part of that supplemental documentation that's being processed and will be provided.
Thank you. But that is one thing that I did know about, so I appreciate that. I guess the only other question that I had, and we touched on signage, and that, do we have some kind of general visuals that go along that you intend that sort of is the signature for the project, or is it just going to be on a tenant by tenant basis? And that always is after the fact, after the project is built, that always seems to attract the most attention
Yeah, I mean, I think I understand your question, Mike. We are putting together a sign program, and I know that, and you've got the same team from the developer and architect side that is working on this project that also did the Eddy Street Commons project, and that has really done well, and it looks very attractive. Even and that's got some age on it. Still looks very attractive. So I mean, I think our thought is that it would be something that would, as closely as we possibly could, mimic our signage package. Will mimic that. We will put a signage package in that obviously will have to go through the city, and we will be restricting tenants from just going out and doing whatever they want to do. We will have a standard that we will require all the tenants to be in here. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, just as long as part of the team is Nathan and I think Larissa from CRC. We're trying to nail down a process that is as frictionless as we possibly can. And so the more effort on the front end, the easier on the back end. So
you
thank
bet.
you. Well, we're a minute past noon. I was hoping to keep it right at that point. Thank you again for all the effort. I mean, the project is approved with the conditions of getting all the missing sign off, continuing the effort to finalize bike parking. I think that there may be some landscape issues that we don't have the final landscape plan. And then clearly the work with the Parks Department.
And the garage facade will almost be a separate thing.
Yes. Yeah, we would be coming back in with that one.
And the garage designs.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
No, I just wanted to thank everybody for their time today. And like we've mentioned a couple times, this has, definitely been a collaborative effort to get to the point where we are right now. And we're excited to continue it going forward.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.